Does look like the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to use the first pick on an edge rusher. I know somebody that would know the edge rushers available, and I'm sure he has them ranked. He might have index cards. Chip Patterson, my man, CBSSports.com Cover 3 podcast. This is sort of the end of the season for you, too, when the draft is coming up. We always talk college sports, but last I checked, all these draftees are going to be college kids, right?
Yeah, it's the end of the season, and it is a little bit, I take great pride in all of these college stars as I wish them well, but I also enjoy being just a really sore thumb because I'm going to tell you that Nakobe Dean was better than Travon Walker, right?
Okay, that's
fair.
fair.
All the NFL draft draft nicks are going to be out here, and we're going to talk about the high upside. But when I approached the draft, and I decided this a long time ago, I decided that I was going to come from a college-centric viewpoint where I understand that certain measurables and upsides are reasons why you're going to make a selection. But after the time and energy that I've spent pouring into who they were during their time in college football, I have always, at a fault to my own analysis and at a fault to my own fantasy football drafting, I have always overvalued what you did in college over what you might be able to do in the pros.
All right, let's talk about it from this perspective, simply because there's a difference between what we see on a college football field and the production that certain players offer versus how that translates to the NFL. And you know Bill Connelly, right? From I guess from ESPN.
A friend of the Cover 3 podcast.
Oh, excellent.
Multiple times over, yeah.
All right, so it fits in nicely. So I saw Bill talk about Travon Walker, who right now is the odds-on favorite to go number 1. And what he can't understand, and look, I don't know this, and man, I would love to have a job where this is the only thing I had to do. He talked about pass rush rate and all of these things, and he goes, man, that is incredibly low for somebody who is going to be essentially an edge rusher. That he had it was roughly, I think it was less than 10% of pressure. I think it was 8.1% on pass rush attempts. And he says for the first pick in the draft, that's really low. So, and he was talking about Travon Walker. So how do we balance the production versus the potential of what these guys can do at the next level?
That's why general managers get fired every single offseason. It is very, very difficult. That is the job of these front offices and of these general managers to decide whether you want to be able to have somebody who could, in 2 to 3 seasons, be one of the most dominant defensive players in the entire NFL, or whether you would like to get somebody because of proven production who seems ready to go right now. And that's where it has to be a franchise-by-franchise decision. And that's why it's your responsibility as a GM to understand based on the rest of the roster and understand based on what your team's goals are for that upcoming season, whether you want to go there. Because, look, I think that if given a full season of health, Aidan Hutchinson steps in and he is a phenomenal pass rusher immediately as a rookie.
Right.
And I think that Walker's probably a little bit more of the project who could end up being better, certainly, but probably isn't there. I mean, Kirby Smart, when he's been giving lectures to high school football coaches since the national championship game, and shocker, Kirby Smart's been a pretty popular guy to go around these clinics and get paid by Nike and others to be able to come and tell you what's good. But to see some of these clinics, he'll even stop the tape and be like, look, the only reason this play worked is because Jordan Davis is unlike any other human on earth and bowled somebody over. That's the reason why it's worked. The only reason why this worked is because Nakobe Dean's football IQ called out the play before it happened. There was a lot that happened within the context of that Georgia defense where I am willing to grant that Travon Walker's statistics might not have represented how good he was and might not have represented how good he could be. But all that said, if I'm power ranking these Georgia defenders in the NFL draft class, I am Nakobe Dean over Travon Walker, just as a matter of studying that team, that defense, and what I saw with my eyes.
I remember a conversation that you and I had, and Chip Patterson is with us, as he is every Wednesday. By the way, congratulations on the new edition.
Thank you.
I saw the you sent me a text with a picture of the new crew, and what a beautiful look, perfect, right? Get them now put them on skates. I don't know. Get them like win a division, win a metropolitan division with the Patterson crew. But you and I had this conversation months ago when I was ready to vote for the Heisman Trophy, and I was like, I love Jordan Davis. And you said, well, look, he only plays in a certain number of the plays. The guy on Georgia's defense that really does it all is Nakobe Dean. And Davis, I think I saw projected somewhere in the middle of round 1, maybe a little bit on the early end of the middle, but in the 13, 14, 15 range. And Dean was toward the back. It's all about positions. This is why the edge rushers go so high, or the cornerbacks go so high, or the quarterbacks always go way earlier than they should. What kind of an impact is Nakobe Dean at the next level?
He is able to step in and be a starting linebacker for an NFL defense week 1. And while it would be far too bold of me to slap some kind of tab on, whether he would make a Pro Bowl or be top 4 or 5 in his team as tackles, I'll tell you what, no coaches would be complaining about him. You would be able to plug him in, and you would be able to have so much confidence that he is going to be able to execute what he is asked to do and then some, because of his advanced knowledge of the game, because of his closing speed, and because of his ability to put himself in position. Hey, look, Kyle Hamilton's another one like that.
Yeah.
Everyone's freaking out about this 4.6 40, but I don't know. He looked plenty athletic when he was making incredible plays on the ball. On the ball, great ball skills, the way that he plays the safety position, and sort of just the way that he's able to carry himself out there. Like, forget your 4.6 40 time. He is good enough that if you put Kyle Hamilton in a defense, he's going to start week 1, and he is not going to frustrate the coaches because of his inexperience or because of the fact he's a rookie. He will be able to do exactly what he's asked to do and then some.
Sounded to me like you described Nakobe Dean the way we describe really smart basketball players going to the San Antonio Spurs, and that Nakobe Dean will be with the New England Patriots.
Right. He's going to end up going to a good team at the end of the first round, and everyone's going to be mad that that's where he's going to end up going. Good.
All right. I want to get back to the edge rushers. We'll talk about tackles in a minute. Travon Walker, odds-on favorite to go number 1. You say he could end up being the best. You talked about Aidan Hutchinson, even though, according to our conversation with Will Brinson on Monday, he's basically a T-Rex. He has 5-inch arms. He can't. He has no sleeves. And Kayvon Thibodeau has been talked about as the best pure talent at that position. If you were drafting, rank those 3 players for me.
Thibodeau 1, Hutchinson 2, and then Walker 3. Again, based on sort of what I saw covering them as college football players, because there have been moments, and they didn't happen all the time. I mean, Thibodeau had some injury issues, but when he went into takeover mode, which off the top of my head, I think there were 3 or 4 games where he was maybe goose egg in the first half, ends up with like 2.5 or 3 sacks in the second half, which, that is a takeover for an edge rusher. If you are creating those kinds of issues, you are changing the way that the offense is preparing for you. I think that Thibodeau's peak and his ceiling of those 3 was the best that I saw. Hutchinson was a little bit more of a volume play, but the thing that stood out to me was, again, I go back to the biggest games in Michigan's Big Ten championship run. Those games against Penn State, the game against Ohio State.
That was crazy.
Games that he needed to be a superstar, it really seemed like he leveled up in a very, very big way. And then, again, Travon Walker is an amazing talent and a very, very good football player. But if you're asking me to rank, I am going to have a bias based on what I've seen. And so I go Thibodeau 1, Hutchinson 2, Walker 3.
The Hutchinson game against Ohio State wasn't at Ohio State. I believe it was at the Big House. That was the most.
It was in the snow, and always remind Michigan fans that the only reason that they won was because C.J. Stroud can't throw in the snow. It really makes Michigan fans who aren't at all sensitive about this Big Ten championship. It makes them feel great when they're told the only reason they won was because of Mother Nature.
Unbelievable. but to me, that was maybe the most eye-opening game of the entire college football season. I don't recall ever seeing a defensive player do that. Wasn't it some insane number of quarterback pressures? I mean, I could be wrong here, like 20 or some like ridiculous number like that.
Well, I'm backed into this corner because of the game itself, but I remember a Chase Young against Wisconsin game that was bananas.
Okay.
Where it was just like, this was going to be...
Chase Young was good.
Yeah, it was pretty good. It was a mid-season game. Wisconsin had gotten off to a really hot start. It was going to be the toughest game on Wisconsin's schedule. Ohio State, always, you only have about 2 or 3 games that really are going to challenge the Buckeyes. This was one of them. Went in with a ton of hype, and instantly you're like, well, Wisconsin's never going to be able to pass the ball because their unathletic quarterback is getting sacked by Chase Young after 5 steps back every single time.
Right.
So there are performances like that, but you are right to single out the Ohio State game because that was the big plus for me on Hutchinson. And that was one thing that I considered when it was time to start talking about end of season awards was not just Hutchinson's gaudy total, but who it was against. Right. And it was against some of the best teams on Michigan's schedule, aka when stars need to be stars to be able to lead your team.
By the way, I know it's the joke. Michigan won that game because Michigan was better than Ohio State last year. I think they would have won that game in space. All right, when we come back, we'll take a quick break. I want to talk about offensive tackle, but I also want to get your take on the pending retirement of Mark Emmert, who has done such great things as president of the NCAA, right?
For who?
Great
things for the university presidents who need a meat shield to be able to throw up out there. I tell you what, we need to get Mark Emmert out here drafted as a tackle. Talk about somebody that's been good at blocking in space. We need to get Mark Emmert.
But he hasn't even been good at that. He hasn't even been good at that. He's been the worst representative of the NCAA.